I think that's perfect.
I think
What
I
do you
agree
think?
with you. Hello,
There you
ladies
go.
and gentlemen.
You can hear me okay, right? Hello,
Yes.
boys and girls. I'm Chris Dunham. He's Mike Michaels. This is the Chris and Mike Show, and this is episode 20,
If that means 20,
right?
correct.
Right? Episode 19.2. Well, 19 and a half, because this is the second half of the story.
Yeah, it's still episode 20.
But it's still called 20. 20.
Yeah.
20. Yes. 20. 20. For those of you learning Spanish on Duolingo, it's 20. 20.
With a V?
E, I think. With a V.
Okay. I learned something new today.
20. I don't know how to spell it, but yeah. That was the whole purpose of this today, was just to tell you what 20 is in Spanish. So I'm out. Thanks for listening.
Okay, Costanza. When he wanted to go out on top all the time.
That's a funny show. Right. Yeah. He wanted to be called T-Bone, and he's not T-Bone. He told me he's the monkey. He's the ape.
He's Coco the monkey.
I watched. That's one of those shows you put on when you want. Right. That's one of those shows you put on when you just want noise in the background, and you're not really. Your brain's turned off, and you're just like, what can just be in the background to keep me slightly entertained?
Yeah, because I know them all by heart.
That would be that. Do you really?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that show so many
All
times.
of
It
them?
just makes me laugh. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, once an episode gets
I'm that way
started,
with
I
The Office.
remember.
Yeah, me too. And The Office has this thing on Peacock. They release every now and then new seasons of the Superfan episodes. So they end up being, like on TV, they're like 21 minutes long because all the commercials and shit. Well, on Peacock, if you subscribe to Peacock, you get the Superfan episodes, and they end up being anywhere from 36 to like 42 minutes because they have so much content. Then when you watch those, it's like, why the fuck did you cut that out? That was a funny bit. Like Creed had so many lines cut out, man, over the years. Like Creed and Kevin, they butchered their stuff. But they had some of the funniest bits in the Superfan episodes that you never see unless you're got Peacock.
I'll have to go on there and watch them then. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can let everybody know we spoke to William Richard Card III last week. And for those of you that know, he was the bass player for Nemesis. We're going to get him on the show once Mikey gets his world-class internet.
Yes.
And then I pretty much told him that we're going to at least do eight Nemesis songs and create an EP, and he's got to be involved, and he sounded down for that. So I didn't go any further in detail with him, but, that's on the horizon, boys and girls.
Correct.
We can call it Nemesis 2.0. Ooh. 2.0, because then that separates us from the other wannabe Nemesis cover band that we found, right? Just Nemesis 2.0.
Do a little research and see if there's a Nemesis 2.0.
Or we spell it with a Z. Nemesis. Like make one of the S's a Z. Right? One of them could be a Z. Nemesis.
Actually, when I looked on Spotify the other day,
that's the logo, boys and girls.
There's two Nemesis bands that both have music published on Spotify.
Huh. Well, we're better than both of them, so that's all that matters.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Agreed. So hey, so Lord of the Fretboard. Today's show is the second half of your oh shit. I have to TV time out for a second. There's somebody at my door. Hold on.
Okay. So, what he was getting ready to say was we were going to pick up where I left off so abruptly because we had another glitch in the Matrix, unfortunately. I don't know what keeps happening, but it tells him that he runs out of storage space and then it's no longer recording on his end. So you would just be listening to me and not getting the other half of him. So we had to end it where I was getting ready to pick up a pretty hellacious story. So when he comes back after answering his door, we will continue on with that story. I'm sure he would like to hear it because unbelievably, I never told it to him in all the hundreds of times we've talked over the years. So this will be new for even him because, like he keeps saying, we didn't have a lot of contact during my years of addiction because he was going through his years of addiction at the same time. And we had two different things that we were addicted to. So we ran in different crowds and just kind of lost touch for a few years there. Pretty much we've been in touch more often than not, but during those years, it was pretty dark for both of us, which is why we decided to do this podcast to at least give the message of hope out there that, you know, you can come out the other side and you can live a healthy, I was going to say normal, but, you know, normal is different for everybody. You know, what is normal for me, people think is crazy because, you know, I never had any kids. I didn't have a family. So to a lot of people, they're like, I can't imagine my life without that. And that just wasn't in the cards for me. So not that I have anything against it. It just, you know, I had a different plan for my life, I guess, or the universe did, because many times you ask yourself if what you're doing is right, and the stories you're about to hear definitely during those times you question what you're doing is right. But, you know, when you're addicted, you don't really have a choice, or you feel like you don't have a choice because every day you need that drug or drink or whatever you're doing. So it becomes like Groundhog Day. Every day is the same day every day. You just keep doing it over and over again. And it's almost like insanity because it seems like you're expecting a different result, you know, like you expect to feel magical or something. I don't know how else to describe it, you know, because it's so insane that you just keep doing it over and over. And Chris is back now, so
My apologies.
I filled in your.
I
No,
ran
it's
so
all right.
fast my hat fell off.
I ranted, not about you. I ranted just about addiction and in general.
I got a guy. Yeah, I got a guy that's helping me kill all the weeds, man, because the pasture's just, dude. Okay, so, you know, squirrel, Led Zeppelin, your shirt you're wearing.
Okay.
Led Zeppelin. I found out 2 days ago, which is just fucking bizarre, that Nikki absolutely loves Led Zeppelin. I was like, how did we not have this conversation at some point in time in the 28 years that we've kind of hung out? Like, what the fuck?
I would
Talked
be
about like all kinds of shit, but for some reason,
I would be lying if I said I remembered that she was a Led Zeppelin fan, but I wouldn't be surprised if at one time or another when I was in the band, her and I hadn't talked about that because
Yeah.
I've always been a freak over Led Zeppelin. So tell her I said right on.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like right on. I will, because I was like right on. And then, you know, Led Zeppelin, man.
Yeah, if we have a listener out there, and I can't believe we would, that's never listened to Led Zeppelin, do yourself a favor and please go do that.
Yeah, my favorite song is When the Levee Breaks, not gonna lie. I love that tune. I don't know why. And it's a cover. It's a blues cover. Did you know that? You knew that. You obviously know that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's my favorite tune. I mean, I like physical graffiti stuff. I like, you know, Moby Dick's really badass, but he's just by far on the levee breaks is right on, man, right on.
It would be the Rain song for me.
So now that we're done with, oh, right on, right on, and we've talked about a Song Remains the Same live concert video and how badass that was. So
yes, actually, the Rain song is my favorite song of all time of any band.
Right on, dude.
Just
really,
because
of
it's
all time of any band.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
Just because it's such a message of hope. It's beautiful.
This is true. Yeah. The mighty Led Zeppelin. So that is in no way a segue to the Mike Michaels story part 2. But last week we were talking about this. You were going to share a story that we were just getting to, and then we decided to dangle the carrot and kind of do that. You're coming back, listeners, to hear the other half of Mike's story. So that being said, just take it away, Mr. Lord of the Fretboard.
And I did I did out us there while you were gone with our little segue and told the listeners the cat's out of the bag that we had a glitch in the matrix again, but we did leave them with a nice segue, so we will pick up from there. So absolutely. I was just getting ready to tell Chris a story that I can't believe in all these years I've never told him, but I had been up for many days doing illegal substances of all kinds. It's not important what they were because I probably couldn't remember all of them over the course of 3 or 4 days. That's a long time to be up. And at some point,
it is a long time to be up.
Yes. At some point you get hungry. And it was decided that I would make a food run.
Did you make a run for the border? Did you go to Taco Bell?
No, I was
headed. Well, be honest
nope.
with us.
I was headed for Mickey D's.
All right, good job.
Right off the 202 there at University.
Okay.
Somewhere around that area, University cool. And whatever. Yeah. So I'm halfway from the studio to the McDonald's, and there's a crossroad there that had a light at it, and it turned yellow, and I thought I was way closer to the intersection than I was. And I'm driving a Jeep, and I wasn't used to driving a Jeep that had a funky second gear. So you kind of had to really know where it was because the clutch wouldn't work there. Whatever was going out in it. I'm not a mechanic, but you had to know how to drive a stick shift, know how to drive a stick shift. And I was good, but I had been up for many days. So my depth perception was entirely off, and I gunned it at the wrong time, missed the gear, went through the intersection. The light had turned red already before I even got to the crosswalk. And I look over to my right, and who is there but a Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy in his car. And he pulls out, obviously, and gets behind me. And I got probably... Arizona is set up in actual miles. So I probably got another 3/4 of a mile to go to get to the next major intersection. He's behind me the whole way, and I get in the left turn lane because I got to turn left and then turn right to get into McDonald's. And he follows me into the parking lot of a gas station. And then he flips his lights on. And I knew all this was coming. I mean, I'm not stupid. So...
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, for your benefit, you probably weren't driving erratically once he got behind you, because then you're like, oh shit, there's a cop.
I was. So
then he's following you to see if you make any more mistakes. Obviously.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I sat there for what felt like forever. I'm driving my buddy's Jeep, so it's not even my vehicle. At this point, I still have a driver's license, which is the only thing that made this story come out okay. But as Chris knows, he was a Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy, and he's out of his jurisdiction because I'm in the city of Tempe. This is a major metropolitan area. For those of you who have never been to Phoenix, it's the largest county in the United States, square mileage. So it's big. And he has to call the city of Tempe to get one of their city cops out there. And I didn't know this. I'm sitting there for like 2.5 minutes, which is a fucking eternity when you're waiting on the police to come up and talk to you. Now, mind you, I will
Right.
tell
And
you.
as a side note, they don't do that anymore. Yeah. And they don't do that anymore because I got pulled over. I'm not going to elaborate, but I got pulled over a few years back from turning right on a red, and it was a DPS dude on a surface street in Gilbert. So nowadays they have all the jurisdiction all over the place. So your 2.5 minutes was just, monumentally fucking with your mind, I'm sure. But nowadays that dude had the authority to do whatever the fuck he wanted.
And maybe at that moment in time he did too. And for whatever reason, he chose not to. I have no idea. But he finally came up to the Jeep. And in the Jeep, I have a glass pipe, which those of you that know. And those of you that don't, you smoke either cocaine, crack, methamphetamine, heroin, whatever you want to put in there and light it up and turn it into smoke and smoke it. That's what you do with it. So I have that in there. I have probably a 1/4 ounce of weed that was in there. And as soon as he hit his lights, I took that bag of weed and I threw it as far up in the passenger's side as I could. Okay. It's a Jeep. There's not a lot of room.
Okay.
I took the pipe, I shoved it down between the seat and the console as far as I could get it to go. And I thought, if they search this vehicle, I'm going to prison because I've been up for like 3 days. I had to have looked like death warmed over. I have drugs, enough drugs to where.
Sure. And then you got to add on the anxiety and the stress.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. I'm sweating bullets, because I think I'm going to prison.
Well, yeah. I can imagine. Right.
So this guy, he comes up to the vehicle and he says, I need you to just hang tight. I called for a.
Uh-oh. Mike left. Don't know where Mike went, but Mike disappeared. Mike, where are you? Mike, where are you? Mike Michaels. So, it's funny. Every time we try to tell Mike's story, we have technical difficulties, and it's really a conundrum as to why it happens. We don't know.
Okay.
He's back now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
That was weird.
That was me. It totally said I had no internet connection. So
poof. It could have been the ghost because I have a ghost in the house, so the ghost came into the machine. Yes, that's a police reference, which is very topical because we're talking about the police right now.
Yes. So
go ahead, Mr. Michaels.
He's at the vehicle telling me I got to wait for the city of Tempe to show up. And it's probably another 45 seconds. It wasn't very long. This guy shows up and he's got his partner. So I got a Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy and 2 city of Tempe police around this vehicle, and they're shining their flashlights underneath the Jeep, running the plates, obviously, shining it in the vehicle, shining it in my eyes. And that's when I thought I was fucked. Because, if I had seen me, I would have taken me to jail. So I'm waiting. And he's asking me a bunch of questions, and I'm telling him it's not my Jeep. I'm not used to driving it. I think what did it for me, to be honest with you, is I was super apologetic. I told him I knew what I did wrong, but I explained that the Jeep had mechanical problems and that I wasn't used to driving it. I know how to drive a stick shift, but you really got to hit second gear in the right. I'm telling him all the things that were actually true, and he knew what I was saying was true because I'm telling him. I'm telling him just like I'm telling you.
Yeah.
These are the facts of the case, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that was the majority of what kept him from investigating any further. If I had been a dick and said, what the fuck, man, just been like a typical asshole would be to a cop, it would have been a different scenario. But I was really apologetic. And the whole time those guys are shining those lights, I'm just like, please don't see that bag, and please don't ask to search the vehicle.
Yeah.
So what seemed like an eternity finally ended, and he handed me my license back and told me to drive safely. And as close as I've ever been to seeing the inside of a penitentiary, because if they had searched that vehicle, they would have found enough, at least enough marijuana, and obviously a controlled, both of them were controlled substances at the time. So as you know, in Arizona, that would have earned you at the
Right.
very least a long stay at Sheriff Joe's Tent City.
Sheriff Joe's place with the green bologna and the pink underwear outside in tents.
So
Tent City.
the last thing I said on the last episode was
Now,
to dispel any rumors that any of
Right.
this was fun. If you had made one
right.
different move than I did in that situation, you'd be in jail. And if I had made one different move in that situation, I would have been in jail. I'm not sure what kept me out of it, but I know I was super cool to the guy and I stated the facts. So at this point, it's obvious to everyone I'm not in my right mind. I'm just at the beginning of what I told Chris at one time. The only way that I can call it or describe it to people is one step from being in the nut house. I was suffering from psychosis. I was seeing things that weren't there. I was hearing things that weren't there. I was thinking that everyone was out to get me, and there was a whole subplot. It would have made an excellent movie.
Right.
That's all I know. So I'm freaking out. You know,
most of the drug journeys, most of the drug tales and addiction stories of recovery, all can make really great movies. You know.
oh yeah, I really think I need to think back on these days and start writing this down. But it was not. It was definitely not fun at the time, and I couldn't perform as a human being. So I don't have a job at this point. I'm living at, a friend of mine was a commercial photographer. I'm living at his studio. So I'm supposed to be working. Right. I'm heavily addicted. We're supposed to be putting a band together. Obviously, you can't. There's a certain point where addiction takes over and just functioning at doing anything else is not really feasible. You know, that's where you're kind of a superhero in that you kept working all the time. You never let your family down financially because of your drinking.
No. Yeah.
I got to the point where I let
functional.
myself and everyone around me down because I couldn't function even on the level of being a sociable human being. I had no contact with my family, which was horrible, because my family's really close and that's important to, especially my mom and dad.
Yeah.
That was their goal in life, was to raise, successful human beings. And they did that. And then to lose touch with one of them, and worse yet, know that they're suffering and feel like there's nothing you can do.
Right.
And not knowing, she didn't know for a long time that there wasn't anything she could do. It took hearing it from me many times. And she probably still somewhere in her heart of hearts says, I still think there's something I could have done. But I've told her enough times that, coming and dragging me to an institution wasn't going to solve anything, because that's not how I operate,
No. And if I can inject there, when we had our family member going through the perils of heroin and meth, Nikki and I had to take it upon ourselves and understand that we were not the cause of that person's adventure. Like, we did everything we could, knowing what we knew as parents, that the ownership wasn't on your parents, wasn't on your mom or your dad for the path you took. It's just where life took you. So a lot of people that deal with this in their families, whether it's immediate family or circle of family, they take on the burden, like, oh, this is my fault. What did I do wrong? You can't do that, because we go back to free will, right? You the different steps you took towards getting to where you were that night was all your choice. Like with my drinking, it was all my choice to drink, and it was my choice to stop, which we've talked about before. And we both are similar in the fashion that we both just stopped kind of cold turkey with no real, 24/7 support and no lockdown facility, stuff like that. We just hit that wall and knew that something had to change. So if you're a parent or a sibling or an aunt and uncle or a grandparent listening to this, and you feel like you have ownership and responsibility for what the addict in your life has done, you don't.
Correct.
You don't, unless you're one of those crazy ass motherfuckers who physically, mentally, and verbally abuse them, and you're a piece of shit. Then yeah, it's all your fault. But if you're not a piece of shit, it's not your fault. It's just the journey that they went on, because that's what the choices they made in life. But with that caveat, because there are pieces of shit, and I don't play the blame game, because I could point fingers and I don't, because I'm a big boy and I don't believe in that. But just understand, as long as you did everything you thought you knew how to do, you don't have ownership in the choices that we make as addicts.
No, and you're 100% correct on both accounts. There are situations, and unfortunately yours was one of them, where you didn't have the best upbringing and you didn't have somebody as a role model to look up to.
Right.
And what hurt me more when I was in my darkest days was knowing that you hit the nail on the head. My mom and dad didn't do anything wrong. They did everything right.
Yeah.
They gave us all the tools that we needed to be functioning members of society. They made sure we had an education. They made sure we know how to take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
They did everything right. It was not their fault. And if they need to hear it one more time, it was 100% not their fault. So at this point,
it's not your fault, Mama Kay. Just relax, Mama Kay. Just chill. Go have a popsicle, sit on the front porch, and just relish the fact that you did everything okay.
She's the best. She is the best. So is my dad. We just have different interests. So, like my mom and I have whatever interests we have, and him and I have whatever interests we have, and it works swimmingly. So yeah, they're both great people, and they both worked very hard and had a nice home, and that's where I came from. So when I'm sitting there going, what the fuck have I done to myself? I have that to deal with too. It's like, now I've not only let myself down, I've let everyone that relied on me to be not only a functioning member of society, but, I was the one that wanted to go be a superstar or whatever and change the world with music. And it wasn't even wanting to be a superstar. It's that I wanted to change the world with music. If I had a mission in life, I did not want to be famous. Let's get that out of the bag right away. Anybody that knows me knows that I am not interested in being the center of attention. I need you to help with
that's why you have lead singers.
Yes, exactly. 100%. So, quick interjection. When I met Chris and he was singing behind me, I'm like, that's the guy I need. Anybody that's ballsy enough to sing along with the guy who is the front man for the band we came to see is my guy. So that's why we're still here talking to you folks today. And at this point,
I never knew that. Thank you.
I never told you that either. We probably should have talked more back then. It's a good thing we're doing a podcast.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, 100%. True story.
We were just all about jamming and making music, man, and having fun. And
Yep.
Everything was a lot simpler back then because there was no internet, It was just everybody had to interact face to face, and that's how you got along in life. That's how you met people. That's how you grew and evolved, and, connections were made was, face-to-face interactions.
I'm just saying we must have spent a lot of time writing music, and we did, because we wrote lots and lots of songs. But I'm like, that's weird that, we would never even talk about that. But yeah, that's where that came from. So at this point, I'm way down, cool. And I know that something needs to change, right? And the people that are helping me survive at this point obviously want something to change, because they're not my family, and it's not up to them to make sure that I succeed in this world. So I get a hold of my aunt because I'm bad and I need a place to live. I'm about to be I don't think they would have made me homeless, but they gave me a timeline. So I go over to my aunt and she takes me out for lunch, and I tell her what's going on. So this is the first time I dry out. She gives me a place to live.
And the aunt's in Arizona?
Yes.
This is your aunt in Arizona, right?
Correct. Yeah. At the time, she lived in Tempe.
That's what I thought.
So
just so our listeners understand. Okay, cool.
Correct.
Just so our listeners understand. So we had the stoplight incident, and then this is what, a couple days after the stoplight where you like realized, holy shit, something's got to change.
Yes, it's probably months after that.
Okay,
You
well,
know?
yeah, I mean, yeah, but just so they understand the timeline. So
Yeah.
this wasn't a major wake up call, but was enough to kind of get you moving in that direction. Even if it took a month, it still took you down that path. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so what happened in between all that? So between the stoplight incident and me deciding that I needed to change my life, I came home here to Illinois for Christmas, and it's a rough one for me to relive, but it was horrible because that was the first time that I knew that I was physically addicted, not just psychologically or anything else. You know, it wasn't all in my head because I got super sick when I got here.
Yeah.
So I was here for a week.
Gotcha.
And, you know, I'm supposed to do Christmas with the family and all the things you're supposed to do when you're with your family.
Right.
I couldn't do any of it because I couldn't get up because, you know, you've seen it. You went through this with a close member in your family. This is what my family had to see through an entire week at Christmas. So I've apologized to them immensely. And I'll apologize to him again because it's not anything anybody should see. And it wasn't fun to go through. And for me, it was scary because, like I just said, it was the first time I knew that I was physically addicted. Like my body needed it and I was scared. So when I got back to Arizona, that was my first wake up call. And, you know, I had friends who gave me another wake up call and said, hey, you know, you need to do something. So that's when I went and had the meeting with my aunt. She gave me another place to live, her house, and my uncle gave me a time limit to get my shit together and get my own place. So I had a 90-day time window to find a job, get an apartment, and get the fuck out. This is how my uncle operated. There's a lot of things that him and my dad had in common, which is they didn't put up with nonsense. So, and they're both very straightforward people. And I appreciate that about both of them. Just like I am with you in a relationship with my dad in our relationship. I know where I stand at all times. He's not afraid to tell you. So that's the way my uncle was. Here's the way it's going to be.
That's cool.
So he gets me a job. Unfortunately,
that's your dad's brother?
That's my mom's brother-in-law. It's my mom's sister's husband.
Yeah. So you're okay. Yes. Yeah. So your dad's brother. And okay. So your mom's sister's husband had the same mindset as your dad. That's a trip.
Only in that respect, I guess, that they were both very blunt and to the point. You know, they took two different paths as far as he was an attorney and my dad worked at Caterpillar. So, you know,
gotcha.
Different kind of mindsets as far as being that. But as far as raising kids, and when they needed to tell you what was on their mind, there was no beating around the bush. And I always appreciated that because both of them would just tell you how it was. And when they were done talking, it's like, hey, you want to go have a beer? You want to get a Coke? Or, you know, like they could have just ripped you up one side down the other. And when they're done, they're done. You know, it's not like they hold a grudge or anything. So he gave me a time frame and he did find me a job. But unfortunately, it was at a plastics factory. And in the meantime, I've already started to dabble again because I have to have it. Right. So, and you know how that goes. You've been through it. You've seen it. So I'm not telling Chris anything he doesn't already know, but this is how addicts are. Yes, I'm going to clean up. Within the first 48 hours, they're already doing it again, probably 95% of the time. And I was no different. So that's where I was at. I'm dabbling, but you know, I got to act like I'm towing the line. So I start going to work.
Right, but you got this now. Yeah.
Yes.
You went over the hump, right? And you were clean for a couple of days, and you're like, oh, I can maintain now. If I can just do a couple of shots and just a few beers, then you know I'm cool. I just don't have to go in excess anymore. We all know where that leads.
Right back to where I was. So the plastics factory job sucked. It was in an unair conditioned building in Arizona in the middle of the summer. You know, half the time I worked there, I was working in the parking lot doing stupid shit. But anyway, that's unnecessary information. The reason I bring that up is because I met a guy there who kind of helped at least keep me from going fucking crazy. So at this point, I move out of their house. I get my own apartment, and I made it probably 6 months maybe. And I wasn't making enough money to afford where I was living. And I move out in the middle of the night, and I move back in with Kevin after I'm homeless for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm living in my car for a little while, and then I just
Gotcha.
finally he was the
Okay.
only person that I felt comfortable enough. I don't think I knew your number then. This is before everyone had a cell phone like we do now. So I get a hold of him, and he tells me, go get your shit, and you can stay here until you get your head on straight. So that's the second time I dried out. And of course, within a week, I'm doing it again. But I got the same situation there. I got to go get a job. So I get a job at Guitar Center, and I'm, selling guitars and trying to maintain. Yeah, but not nice when you're dealing with the public, when you're halfway to psychosis, where everything is scary. And it was actually horrifying is what it was. It's because I had to talk to people every day. But in this time, I met 2 people who changed my life, and one of them I'm going to mention. I'm going to mention both my name because I'm good friends with both of them to this day. And one of them is a guy named Michael Park. He lives in Washington State now.
Okay.
And he's the guy who hired me and took a chance on me when he probably shouldn't have, because I was in no condition to probably even be interviewing that day. And then shortly after that, Tony Palmer became an assistant manager there, who's going to be a guest on the podcast in the near future as soon as Mike gets his new internet.
Yeah.
And Tony told me one important thing, because this whole time I keep trying to put this band together. And we were sitting outside smoking a cigarette one day, and I asked him one important question, because he had been completely sober for quite some time, even at that point. I said, how long was it before you started? I don't know if I worded it like, how long was it before music was fun for you again? Or how long was it before you started playing again? However I worded the question.
Gotcha.
He said a couple years. You got to get away from all that shit.
Okay.
Basically just isolate yourself and get your mind right, get your body right, get your heart right. And I still at that point didn't quite understand. I understood what he was saying, but I wasn't ready to commit to all that yet. So I probably went on for another 6-8 months. I'm working there, things are not going well. So finally I just quit going to that job. Like, I can't do it anymore. So at that point, that's when Kevin said, you can just take care of the house, whatever, just help out around here and get well. I didn't leave that house for 6 months. So when I made the commitment to, I woke up one morning, dude, and I weighed 128 pounds. I stepped on the scale. I'm almost 5'10". No. I'm like 5'9" and a half.
Let everybody know what you weigh now.
160,
let them know what you weigh now.
161.
Right. So 5'10", 160, or 5'10", 120. That's 40 pounds of holy shit.
My mom said I look like an Ethiopian. So they saw me in the middle of all that, and she said, basically, you look like an Ethiopian. So that's what I saw that day in the mirror. And something triggered in the back of my mind, and I basically just said, either I quit today or I'm going to die. That was my thought.
Yeah.
And that's the last time I ever did anything like that. So I've never touched any of that stuff since that moment in time. And you could put a mountain in front of it. You could put a mountain of that shit in front of me now, and I would, no interest. Go right ahead. Have yourself a ball. I'm not here to judge anybody, but I will tell you where it leads to. And that's where it led to me was I lost everything. I had lost the person that I loved the most. I had lost my house. I had lost my band. I had lost anybody that ever, I pushed everybody away that ever gave a shit about me. You know, like, of course, your parents don't stop loving you and your family doesn't stop loving you. But if you don't give them a chance to do that, that relationship is gone. And that's where I was at. I was at rock bottom. So finally, when I had been sober for about a year and a half, it was about 18 months, I had a chance to come back here for Christmas vacation, and I've been here ever since. That was December of 2009. I just knew that to maintain and grow, you know, to get to the point where I'm the person sitting here talking to you, telling you what I went through and that I survived. And not only did I survive, but I've accomplished a lot of other goals, you know, like I bought a house again by myself. I saved a shit ton of money again by myself.
Yay.
I started this podcast with one of my best friends, my brothers, again by myself. You know, all these are achievements that when I was at my darkest point and wanted to fucking die, I never thought any of this was possible. And here I am talking to you, telling you that not only is it possible, you're listening to it, because I was as close to death as anybody could ever be.
Yep.
So every time someone asks me, you know, why are you smiling all the time? Because I'm alive, man. I woke up this morning. I got another chance to sit here, talk to my brother, talk to all the great people that listen to this podcast every day. That means something to me. You know, money doesn't mean shit anymore. It really doesn't. You got to have it to survive. And I'm happy that I am able to afford a lifestyle that I like. Right. You know, I don't need a lot. But, you know, if I want to go buy a soda, I can go buy a soda. That's where I'm at. So.
Right. Might as well go get a soda. Nobody hurts and nobody dies.
That's why I brought that up. I love that song.
That was a Kim. There was a Kim. Yeah, okay, yeah, it was a Kim Mitchell reference for those you don't know.
Yes.
Might as well go for a soda. Nobody hurts. Nobody dies. You know why he wrote that song? Because he was in a fight with his girlfriend. He's like, fuck it. Instead of staying home and continuing this battle with her, he just said, I'm going to go get a soda. Took off and walked for like 2.5 hours. So, you know, get into a monumental fight or go get a soda and then write a song about it. And that's what he did.
It's a pretty catchy little tune, too.
There you go. It is a catchy little tune. He wrote some catchy stuff, that dude, for sure.
So I guess one thing that I will say is don't, and this is going to be the hardest thing for an addict. At some point, and you'll know when it's right for you, and hopefully it's sooner than it was for me, because I could have saved myself a lot of pain and suffering. You got to swallow your pride at some point, and you got to ask for help from somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got to be somebody that you respect.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Agreed. 100%. Unless you're really stubborn like me, and then I didn't really ask for help. I just ended up going to AA, and then that was my way of asking for help. And I knew it was a safe place to ask for help because they were all like-minded, right?
Correct.
Because I had fractured the ability to get help from Nikki because she was telling me for years, I just wasn't listening to it. So it may not be somebody, you know, it may be AA, maybe NA, maybe whatever you're going through. But if you don't have somebody to ask help for, those support groups, everybody has the same mindset. Everybody has been there, done that, just like you. So you just be honest with them and honest with yourself, and the journey of recovery will begin.
And that's where I was lucky with Kevin, is he didn't judge where I was at, what I had done, because he had done the same things, not to that level. I mean, you know, but it's different with somebody that's been there, done that. You know, that's why I always say there's two things you should never talk to people about if you've never done it. And that's have kids or do drugs, because you don't know, you know. That's one thing you do not know.
Correct.
I don't know what it's like to raise a child because I never had one. I can look at it from the peripheral. And if you've never done certain kinds
Right.
of drugs or any drugs,
I don't. Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
know because you've never
Yeah.
been there. And especially like hallucinogens
Right.
and speed of any kind, heroin of any kind, because that's an opiate.
Right.
If you've never been down those, you have no idea what it's like to be physically addicted to something and to come out the other side. It's a fucking miracle, man. It just is.
Right. And to come out the better side, a better human for it is even more a testament of your character and your desire to get healthy and get back on that path, which leads me to this. I wrote this down when you were talking.
Okay.
You need to stop apologizing to your parents. You need to stop apologizing to mom and dad because
I haven't done that in a long time, man. I haven't done that in a long time.
Okay, because you made reference that it's like you have to trust the fact that they have forgiven you. Anybody that you wronged, wrong's not the right word, but anybody that you brought into your chaos world, if you feel like you have to continue apologizing to them, then that's the addict's insecurity. Just you own up, you apologize, and it should just be able to be let go. And this is not just for you, obviously. This was true for me. It's true for me. It's true for anybody. I apologized a couple times. I went to a wedding years ago. I was the best man of my buddy that I knew in Illinois, and we had just went back to because my grandmother died. So I never really apologized to his wife for how I acted at the wedding because I got lit. I just got fucking hammered. And she laughed it off. She said that I would, that she had a blast watching me, and it was just, it was just who I was. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I tainted your day. And she's like, well, you didn't really. We just, you were having fun, and you just didn't stop. So I don't know if that was really her way of just being like, yeah, who gives a fuck? It's so far removed. But I never apologized to her, so that's why I brought it up.
No, actually,
but once you apologize to somebody, you should be able to close that chapter.
That's only the second time I've ever done it. I just did it because we're making a permanent record of it. I just wanted to get it out there that went
right
down because I think it's an important thing. If you did wrong, if you did wrong while you were under the influence of anything as an addict, you definitely should apologize to those people because it's such a powerful feeling to be able to let all that go, man. I can't tell you how much lighter my whole existence was after I was able to do those things. There's a few people that was important for me to do that with.
Right.
And when I got the last person done, it's like 1,000,000 pounds was just lifted off your chest because people appreciate that kind of shit,
Yeah.
Whether you think they do or not, they do. That means more to them than anything.
Yeah. It does, because you take the time and you recognize the chaos that you put them through, and then it opens that up, and it's a nice little closure. It's closure in a way. You're not ending your friendship, relationship, things like that, but it's closure of that chapter in your life, I think.
No, and when it came to like my mom and dad, it was a closure because from that moment forward, we built a relationship that we have today, which is having a great time as adults, having coffee, going out for dinner, doing whatever, just having fun. So it went from that point to building the relationship we had today. I just wanted people to know, for the record, that that's an important part of recovery. Is there's people that you're going to have damaged along the way, and if you love them and they still love you and you want a relationship with them, it's important for you to apologize, because they didn't know what to do at that moment in time.
100%.
It's as hard for them as it is for you, whether you know it or not.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Because I've lived both sides of that coin, right? So I know how hard it was from an addict standpoint to get clean and stay clean, and then I know from the outside looking in and watching that struggle and knowing that struggle, which I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but it was. I think the fact that I struggled with mine and then the family members struggled with theirs, it helped us from an outside looking in to know because there's nothing. I can't really say what's right or wrong because everything's different and everything's relative, and you don't know. The biggest thing was what we learned was you don't enable, you don't give. You alert everybody around. Don't give this person cash. Don't buy into their bullshit because you don't want to be the one responsible for them ODing because you gave them $100 on a Friday night.
Right.
If anybody's going to give them money and hold that liability, it's got to be Nikki and myself, not the outsiders looking in who think they're helping. Because addicts, as you can attest to, they take everybody down the manipulation tree. Anything and everything they can do to get you to give them something, they pull out all the stops. I mean, there's nothing they won't touch. There's nothing that's taboo to an addict. There's nothing that's off limits. When they're so deep into their addiction and they need to get their next high, they're going to fuck you 20 ways sideways just to get what they want. And you're going to get chipped away and just like a marble statue, right? Like you're chipping away you're carving a statue of Michelangelo, whoever that was the artist, but you know what I mean?
That's a great way of putting it.
They're going to chip those chunks of stone away. Yeah, they're going to chip those stones away off that massive piece of granite until they get what they want. And they don't care how much damage they cause getting to that core, which is to get their high, which sucks. That's how bad addiction is. And I think people realize it more now than did 20 years ago because it's so relevant and it's so much out there in social media and stuff. And nobody is really ashamed to talk about it anymore. I mean, there's still those that won't, which I don't get, but I think that there's so much laid out now that anybody can get help if they need it. They just have to want it, which we've talked about many times.
Agreed. But you're right. When you and I went through it, there was such a stigma still that, it was a very taboo subject for a long time, even into the early 2000s, which, you asked me what the time frame was.
Mm-hmm.
It was from like late 2003. It would have been, okay, we'll say, let's see, 2000. It would have been like 2004 to 2007. Like 3 years, 3.5 years probably.
Okay.
Because that would have been like 31 and a half to 35. Because by the time I moved back here, I was 37. So it was, between 3 and 4 years of my life that was just, to put it bluntly, most of it's gone. There's a few stories that come back, but like a lot of things short-circuited because I was fucked up, man. Days went by that you just don't remember. They're just gone. So that's why I left the people in the last podcast with the message to dispel any rumors that any of this was fun. It might have been a little fun in the beginning, but if you want to lose 3 or 4 years of your life, or better yet, be dead, because there were so many nights that I didn't know if I was going to make it, for one reason or another that's unimportant now. But as well as I do, there's plenty of times that you just shouldn't be here, and just through the sheer will of the universe or some kind of incredible fucking luck, we're still here talking to you. And that's all it is dumb fucking luck.
Yep.
Because a lot of my friends died.
Yep. You're supposed to be here.
One of them was executed. All these things happened while I was going through this. So, we'll have to
have that next. We'll save that for another show. I want to hear. I want to hear that story.
That's a different story. Yeah, that's sad.
That's yeah. Yeah. So just put this in perspective here, right? And I googled this, and in 2023, the overdose death rate topped 112,000 in a 12-month period for the first time, according to the CDC. That's overdose. So the overdose is, any type of drug that you can overdose on: heroin, meth, fentanyl. Yeah, topped 112,000 in 2023. That's 112,000 people that more likely started from a painkiller standpoint. The bulk of them, I would think,
Which is right where I started.
Every 4 minutes, a drug death occurs. Yeah, every 4.5 minutes, somebody dies of overdose in America. That's crazy.
And just for the record, Chris can search and search and search, and he's never going to find a marijuana overdose, just for the record. Just want to get that out there.
Nope.
Because it's never happened.
Yep.
So let's worry about all the other shit that people are doing before you get worried about that little Johnny's, No, let's not say little Johnny, because I don't think anybody should really even dabble in that until they're about 25. And let's get this out there, because if there are young people listening to this, and I know there are because I know one of my nephews listens to it.
Sure.
I tried marijuana one time when I was like 15, and I guess for whatever reason it didn't take, and I didn't really care for it. So I really never smoked pot until I was about 21, maybe. Like, as in, I said it was okay and I liked it, and I'm an adult now and I can do what I want. But really, scientifically, if we're going to get this out there and be like a true informational, real, raw, and relevant podcast, you should not smoke pot or take any kind of hallucinogens until you are 25 years of age, because that's when your frontal cortex is finally done forming. You are a full-fledged human being at 25 years old. And this is modern science talking. This isn't Mike, because I'm a fucking dummy. I just learn things as I listen to them. So I'm just saying, I'm not a doctor. I don't want people to think, oh, Mike's just cool, spouting facts. But really, you should not do hallucinogens or any kind of drugs until you're 25 years of age.
No, and realize, boys and girls, Mike did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Get it? Get the joke?
I do.
That's the joke, man.
I do. I appreciate a good joke. Stand-up comedy is right next to music for me.
I know. My little funniness.
I love to laugh, man.
Well, I'm glad that we got through your I love we got through your story without any real glitches, because this is the fourth time now we've attempted to share Mike's journey, because you all heard mine.
We made it.
And I think it was kind of neat that we had the breakers up in two pieces, because because that's that kind of teaser thing. We got to bring people back. So hopefully everyone that listened to it last week is going to listen to it this week and get the happy. I mean, obviously it's a happy ending, because we're both standing here stone cold sober, and and clean, and living productive, healthy lives with people that love us, and we love them back. And
absolutely,
it's just a great day.
And I think I don't know if it got recorded or not, so I guess I'll just say it again. I think you said it best when you were trying to lighten the mood, and I think your exact quote was, the universe just does not want your story told in one single story.
Yeah. I mean, mine's been told. I've told mine so much over the years that I think the universe was like, let's, just free flow there, done them. But yours, it's unique in the sense that you came from small town America to a large city, chasing your hopes and dreams, and doing really well at that, and reaching a level of success that not everybody reaches, right? Because there's people that do this and they never get in front of people, and they don't play consistently, whatever that is. There's people that leave Illinois to go to LA to be actors, and nothing. They never do any of that. They never accomplish shit. So
true.
Whatever level of success you had and we had together, I think is warranted, and it's nice that we have the journey we've had, and we've come back from our demons, and I've written songs about it, and it's cool. It's cool to be where we're at in our life right now, older, wiser, and still have the passion and love for what we do as far as our creative side of life. And we got to find a drummer, get William Richard Carr on board, and let's fucking make some music, man.
Agreed.
Nemesis 2.0. 2.0. I don't know how to do fingers,
Yeah, well, thank
you. I didn't pull top 11 because I didn't pull any top 11s out. So But you know, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. We got through your story. We're just under an hour. Um, you know, like we always say, you're never alone in your journeys and your struggles. Reach out to us, if not somebody else that you know, love, and trust.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow is always a better day. Tomorrow is always a better day, as Mike and I can attest to. You know, and yeah, you got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, you're gonna stumble along the way. As Chris said, not every day is not every day is gonna be that great next day, you know. But the one thing that I say every time, if I make it to my alarm clock, whatever happens, if I wake up naturally, which I like the most, I'm always thankful that I woke up. I always start that
Right.
way. Try starting your day that way. Just when
Yeah, that's
you're
good.
feeling good again,
Okay.
every day you
Just
wake up, be thankful that you woke up. Start there. Because everything else seems
yeah,
meaningless at that point.
that's a
You
good
know?
way. That's a good yeah. Yep. Baby step it. Baby step it. Nothing. Nobody gets. You get clean the moment you decide to get clean, but it's never going to be an easy journey when you first start it. You're gonna have to fight through the days and the desires and the urges, and it's not simple. I was an anomaly. I saw the chip thing, which I've talked about, and I get one of these for every 24 hours and 30 days, 69. That was an anomaly. I'm a little bit different than most people in that aspect, but it worked for me, and that's the thing. You find what works for you. What
Well, it
worked for
worked.
Mike was going back to Kevin's house and you know and living in his house for 6 months without really doing anything. Never
Well,
really going outside, just being a hermit.
basically, what worked for me is the fear of having anyone else tell me what the fuck to do. I didn't want to have to go somewhere and have someone tell me
Oh,
exactly
see,
what
there you
was
go.
wrong with me. If you're smart enough to know what's wrong with you,
Yeah.
just get sober, because otherwise someone might do it for you. Either the jail system or your family might institutionalize you. And if you don't want that and you think you're smarter than that, you got to be smart enough to get sober. And that was my choice. I'm not stupid. I'm not the
Right.
smartest guy in the world, but I'm completely not stupid.
Right.
And
And
I
then
was
yeah.
smart enough to know
Right.
I was fucking addicted because my
Mm-hmm.
body told me I was addicted. So I just had to make the choice to get
Yeah.
clean, and I did that.
And I don't necessarily think jail and prison is a way to get clean. I mean, I think it does. We're going to have somebody on the show in the future that went to prison, that actually got clean in prison, and then discovered his passion, which was helping other addicts recover. I think that's an anomaly. I don't anybody I think that goes into prison, and I could be way off base, but I don't really think prison is a way to get clean, because there's so much contraband. There's so much shit going on, and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Chris is going to refresh here because he just ran out of storage. So we're going to see what that does. Kind of what we were waiting on was to see if this was going to do this again. And it did. I'm not sure exactly why that happens. So now your clock's not rolling? Oh yeah, it did it again. So when you go up to the top, like where it says Riverside Studio, how much memory does it say you're using? Because mine says 500 megs. Okay, I'll just cut it.